we're going to click into this line here, okay? This is dismissal, and it's specifically dismissal for liturgy. There's a similar dismissal section for Vespers and similar for Matins, but the liturgy presents a special addition because we have that hymn that we sing, that blessing to the priest, where it says, you know, the Lord protect you and keep, Lord protect and keep the one that's blessing us, whatever that is. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm going to click into dismissal. Now, dismissal can be, it can be with a commemoration from the Minaeon, with a commemoration from the Alt Minaeon. It can be a commemoration where it's both the one for the day and you know, the special saint. It can be a commemoration for PE alt means a Pentecostalion additional commemoration, which is basically Bright Tuesday, you know, which is Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene, you know, in order to get whatever Pentecostalion and the saint that's there. Or it can be no commemoration, or a specific commemoration, or a triodion commemoration with the Minaeon, when that probably happened once. And there's an extra. All right. So in our case, it is Saints Constantine and Helen, so we were directed to this particular one, which is with a commemoration. All right. And the logic tells us when the movable cycle is 69, that's Holy Friday, Holy Thursday. That's not it. When it's 71, that's Bright Week. That's not it. 78 through 108, that's where we are. All right. So it says insert Pascha intro. So let's go see. Do you have your DCS open to the liturgy?
Yeah.
Or
what's the date?
May 21st liturgy. By the way, I updated the DCS. We're now May through August. So scroll down to the end, basically the end of the liturgy. And we've sung, Blessed be the name of the Lord. We've done all that. The prayer behind you. Okay. So now we're at the dismissal. And what does that include? During Pascha, we have this introduction that said, the deacon, Christ is risen from the dead. All right. Do you see it where it says, deacon, Christ is risen from the dead, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Father bless. Do you see that in the DCS? Okay.
Yeah.
That's here. It's this section called the intro. During this time of Pascha, it was the code is here in the Bright Week, but I gave it a name so that I could invoke it, you know, this part, because it's reused. So I use it down here. Here's where we are, and it took us to this actual section here, so I didn't have to rewrite that. Okay, that's what happened. So it says deacon, and then the actual text of Christ is risen as dialogue, meaning it's not sung, but it's spoken or intoned or something. And then the priest, or not the priest yet, but the Lord have mercy, 3 times. Father bless. That's where all that is. Okay? Yes. Just a reminder, dialogue instead of hymn. So when we want Christ is risen sung, I use hymn as the object, and so it gives it the style, the class, hymn class, and the style which in my style sheet, in this style sheet, makes the first, in the HTML, makes the first letter, the larger red letter that you see, okay? And in my way of thinking, if it says choir, it means sing. We don't have to say choir sings, right? Choir means sing, and typically it's followed by a hymn, which starts with the big letter in red. But if something is to be intoned or read, it doesn't start that way, and it has so that's why we see deacon. What we normally have is a hymn, Christ is risen, but it is not capital. It is not with a red letter, and it's formatted differently, which is indicating that the deacon says it like he says things. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Father bless. And then we have priest, okay? And then we get to the fun stuff. So then there's the paragraph, well, glory to you, Christ our God, glory to you. And then there's the paragraph, the actual dismissal, okay, with whatever saints, may he who rose from the dead, Christ our true God, whatever. So that is a very complex code because each dismissal, could be different. In this case, we have called it a dismissal with a commemoration. So we're going to a selector file, which is dismissals. So now we are in this selector. This template is in the selectors template, right? Dismissals. So just so you can see what's here. Here is where all the different dismissals from matins and liturgy and whatever, they're going to get their logic from this template. So this one is commemoration, yes. And then we'll go through the logic of that. And this is for, all the various ones that we went through, okay? So let's look at commemoration, yes, the details of it. Actor, priest, section 1 and section 2. Wait, section 1 and section 2. Section 2 is whether it's going to be through the prayers of our Holy Fathers, Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us, or Christ is risen from the dead, or whatever that is. That's the section 2. And normally it's the regular end, which is through the prayers of our Holy Fathers and the Amen. However, in Bright Week, which is this line here, in Bright Week, that second part is the dialogue. Christ is risen, truly is risen. Christ is risen, truly is risen. And it's really only done 3 times, have nothing to do with how many languages you know or how many languages are out in the, I can't stand it. 3. For centuries, Orthodox Christians have been formed by that 3-ness, right? Christ is risen 3 times. Not, it's not Pentecost where you have to, find all the languages. I'm just ranting. So anyway, so 3 times, and glory to his holy resurrection. Here the priest says, glory to his holy resurrection on the 3rd day. And then the people respond, we worship or venerate his resurrection on the 3rd day. That's the second part for Pascha during those times. Otherwise, during the 40 days of Pascha, there's 2 sections here. One is after Pascha end 1 and after Pascha end 2. And if you'll scroll all the way to the bottom, that's where you see priest, according to patriarchal imologion, through the prayers. There's an extra priest there. Where is that extra priest coming from? Anyway, I will mark you.
the data is coming from client cl.pe.day078 response 1, or I don't know if that helps, but
Uh, the actor priest.
oh, the word priest?
Yeah, because it's twice. We don't need
Oh, you
re-
mean why does
yeah,
priest show up twice? Gotcha.
correct. And it may be coming from the end of this of the paragraph that has the hymn. It may just automatically insert priest. I'm not sure. I will explore that in a minute. So here's where it's the rubric is. According to the patriarchal email. So the patriarchate says, do end a service with through the prayers of our holy fathers. That's okay. But in monasteries and in a lot of places, we have, the common practice. And some dioceses will end it this way. So I put both. That's why we have option one and option two. And my bosses did not tell me remove one or the other, but I've made it clear what the patriarchal practice is and then what the other custom is. So here's the or, here's the rubric according to common practice, and then priest says dialogue, Christ is risen, and the people, truly the Lord is risen. All right, so that takes care of that second part. So now let's go to part one, which is the actual dismissal paragraph. So here's glory to you, O Christ our God. Okay. And then we have to now accommodate every kind of dismissal for every saint that is commemorated. Some in my book, and other people can think differently, but when I make services, if the saint was not celebrated, first of all, if none of the hymns were about the saint, they don't make they're not commemorated in the dismissal, because it says whose memory we celebrated today. We did not celebrate all the saints that are mentioned in the Synaxarion. We didn't. We celebrated one of them or two of them or whatever. So the place where all the saints get their moment, people should stand at the reading of the Synaxarion, stand with reverence and hear the name of the saint, the list of the saints that are being, whose day, and if it's the practice of that church to read a little blurb for each saint, that's that. But that wasn't the commemoration for the day. Commemoration for the day is the one for whom the saint, the hymns are about. That's my way of thinking. Also, if a saint didn't have, it was just the three hymns at Vespers, but nothing else, or whatever it is, if the Divine Liturgy made no mention whatsoever of the saint, of this particular saint of the day, well, then that saint was not celebrated at that liturgy. Maybe the priest, mystically said the saint's name or whatever. Okay, so I don't want to sound impious, but it's kind of like the credits at the end of a show. The first credit was the saint, Saint John Chrysostom, whose memory it was, or whose liturgy we celebrate, or everyone else, gets their proper place when it's time. Just my way of thinking. So we have to be able to accommodate. In this case, this is commemoration, yes. So we have to accommodate all the saints that are commemorated. Now, the reason why there's all these dates here is because some of the saints are commemorated by default. If you look at it says, through the prayers of his Immaculate Holy Mother, the holy, precious, and life-giving cross, protection of the honorable by his powers of heaven. Okay, so what would we do on, the 8th of November when we've already, their commemoration is there by default. There's got to be something done on the 8th of November, for example. Or St. John the Baptist. Well, so many feasts of St. John the Baptist. Well, he's already commemorated here. Would we commemorate him at the end and say St. John the Baptist, whose memory we celebrate? Or can we be smarter, and move, either omit him, from on top and bring him to the bottom, or make the specific commemoration of his, beheading, of whose beheading we celebrate, at that point. However you want to do it, we can do that through, this logic. So so let's take a look here. If it's January 6th, that means it's Epiphany, okay? And then it says do dismissal 00. So what is dismissal 00? So just further down in this file are a bunch of dismissals, okay? Dismissal 00, 01, 02, 03, and they will be invoked, on a particular date. Do you see how in this logic here? Okay. So 00 means it's a feast of the Lord and no saints whatsoever. And what's in here is, all right, we have dismissal 00. Let's go to the dismissal file. So this is in Greek, obviously. I can pull one up in English also. All right. In English, the dismissal begins with, may he who rose from the dead, Christ our true God. That's the wording, currently in our English. In Greek, there's no word there. Okay, it just says, O Anastas, he who rose from the dead, Christ our true God. And every language will have its own peculiar thing. Either it has something before Christ our God, whatever, or it doesn't. And then, I don't know, all languages, we might have to make an accommodation for another part, okay? So here, dismissal key 00 stands for everything that comes about the Lord, Christ our God, So there's, if it's and the resurrection or at the Annunciation, this will be that may he who for us men, may he who ascended in glory, may the Lord who is coming his voluntary passion. You see that all the there's as many as there are, 15, 20, however many there are. And so this is where the words for that is, okay? And in Greek, likewise, it's just, there's nothing at may. So that key in Greek is blank. But we use that key. So here's blank in Greek, but in English, here's the SID, may, and then MEDA dismissal. So it's a RID. So we go to the Mineon and we find whatever day we're on. And in this case, we're on January 6th. So let's take a look at January 6th. And here, down on line 21, there's a key with a redirect. So this is how I've done it. So it's on the level of the Mineon date in the book of the Mineon, because that's how it'll be calculated by, Now, not every day of the year has this key or has a value for this key. But all the days like January 1st, January 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, up to the 14th, up until the day that we, retire the feast, they will have this key, and that key will be this value. We've given it this value. Here's January 7th, the same key with, okay? Here's January 8th. It also has the D8 dismissal key, all right? So that's why we can use a RID here. It's saying, go look up in the Mineon on the date, and if there is a MEDA dismissal key with a value, use that. So it's kind of going, it's going all over the place, all right? But anyway, it makes sense. So it says, oh, here's January 6th. Go to the dismissals constant file and pick up, go to this file and pick up which one? Pick up the one for Epiphany, all right? So It's going to the dismissals. Here's the list of dismissals and the one for Epiphany. So that's how it knows on January 6th to say, May, he who condescended to be baptized by John in the Jordan for our salvation. Okay? In our case, we don't have a date. Well, does it say May 21st anyway? Here we go, May 21st. All right, so let's drill into May 21st and see what that happens. It says do dismissal 21. So we go here and dismissal 21, and let's open it. So dismissal is Pentecostalion and Mineon. I have this commented out. I used numbers, but here's what it is. It's when we're in the Pentecostalion period, and there's a commemoration from the Mineon. So what do we have here? If it is Thomas Sunday or Sunday of the Myrrh-bearers, because that's what that is, then do that. Because we have to not only commemorate, Saints Constantine and Helen, if it were to fall on that day, whatever saint, but we also have to commemorate Thomas. We have to say something about Thomas, or we would have to say something about the myrrh-bearing women in that case, okay? We're not there. It says, okay, if it's 113, this is Sunday of the Holy Fathers before Pentecost. If we were, if that's what we were doing plus a saint, we would have to commemorate the Holy Fathers and the saint. Otherwise, okay, so now we're in the otherwise. And when the name of the day is Sunday, and that's where we are, because it's a Sunday, do this. Now, when it exists, when what exists? If there is in the Mineon, if it just so happens that the Mineon has one of those, if we're in January or February, March, because we're out of this doesn't know that we're in the movable cycle. This told us movable cycle, this is a movable cycle day, and now it's saying any other, which could be a movable cycle day, which is our case, okay? But it's any other day. The only ones in the movable cycle in the Pentecostalion that have a commemoration are Thomas, the myrrh-bearing women, and the Holy Fathers. Every other day is just may he who rose from the dead, or the Ascension, or the Pentecost, or whatever. There's no people that are commemorated beyond that. So we've taken care of that. So now if it's a Sunday, go and check and see, if it's, let's just say it, is it January 7th? Okay. Then in January 7th would say May, he who was baptized, right? And this key says and resurrection. So that's where we get, may he who is baptized, by John in the Jordan, and who rose from the dead, Christ our true God. Because we're in a festal period, post-festal period, and it's a Sunday. That's why we had to make this stipulation that when it's a Sunday, do this. And the thing that we're doing is we're adding this key that says, and rose from the dead. Okay. And then everything and the saint. And then we get to that. This other one should actually be, well, anyway, that's if it's not a Sunday, then you just have May, and then, well, excuse me, we're still in Sunday. If there's this key, which means if we're in a post-feast period, then do this. Otherwise, the indents and the line breaks are not all here. I just was saving space. So it's just, otherwise use this. And so now it's just may he who rose from the dead, because we're not in a post-festal period in that case. So in our case, it's May 21st. So we said, all right, we're here. Is it 78 or 85? No. Is it 113? No. All right. We're in the next group. Is it a Sunday? Yes. Does the Mineon have one of these? No. May 21st doesn't have. May 21st is not in a post-festal period of the Mineon. Okay. So then otherwise do this. And so here is our dismissal that we are going to see in the DCS. And we'll wrap it here so you can see it better. So what we have is may he who rose from the dead, Christ our true God. And then this one is always through the intercessions of his all holy and blessed, however it's worded in your jurisdiction or whatever, where it says through the intercessions of his all pure and all immaculate Holy Mother. That's dis number 2. And then dis number 3 is about the cross, through the power of the Holy Cross. Dis number 4 is the protection of the honorable boundless powers of heaven. Key number 05 is through the supplications of the honorable, glorious prophet, forerunner, Baptist John. 6 is the holy and glorious apostles. 7 is the glorious triumphant martyrs. 8, the holy and God-bearing fathers, the monastics, the devout God-bearing fathers. And then we have a Cid. We go to the local patron saint. And because the DCS is made for everybody, this is not a RID, but it's a CID. So that's where you get the parentheses, local patron saint, okay? Local patron saint. Then we have 9, the holy and righteous ancestors of God, Joachim and Anna. And then we have a RID here. RID, MEDA, insert 1. All right, so Mineon. Let's go to the Mineon. May 21st. So it said MEDA insert 1. That's this. So when you, especially for Jesse, when we're looking at what these keys in the first part of a Mineon file, I think I've spelled it out, in that description thing. But this is when in a dismissal or in a supplication or whatever, you mention the saints. Here's how you mention the holy, glorious, great God-crowned sovereigns, Constantine and Helen equals to the apostles, or whatever, however it's worded in your jurisdiction. And then there's a second part, which is whose memory we are celebrating. But let's say it was one of the feasts of John the Baptist, and it was whose beheading we celebrate, or something, okay? And in Greek, it's either aftu, or it's either utim nimin epitelumen or ontim nimin epitelumen, or whatever the wording is. So it is a little bit different. It really, you have to be specific in the Mineon. But on the level of the actual book of the Mineon, that's where we've put these things. The Mineon, published Mineon itself does not have this information, but we've put it here because it is accessed in the same way as the Mineon. We can access it now through a RID. And so that's where we have that. So that's the RID, insert 1, Constantine and Helen, insert 2, whose memory we are celebrating, okay? And then we have, and all the saints, that's number 10 here. And then have mercy on us and save us as a good and merciful God who loves mankind. That's 88. So that's how we got that paragraph. May he who rose from the dead. Before I go anywhere else, are there any questions or comments?
Not yet.
Oh.
No, all good.
Okay. So we kind of drilled in and saw some of the complexity. So now you can imagine the various instances and circumstances and saints will have more or less. That's why we have these different things. So where did Constantine and Helen? Well, they got it. Yeah, I showed you where they got it. All right. So let's just retrace our steps. Here's the template for May 21st liturgy. And all that we put here was line 67, which is LI09 dismissal. And so it took us to the liturgy block. And in the liturgy block, we said whether it's if it's a commemoration or not commemoration, or from which me noun, or blah, blah, blah. And so we figured out that it's this one down here. And so then this took us to the selector. And we just did that. So now we've done this line. And then what do we have in the DCS? We says choir and the hymn Lord Protect for Many Years. So here's choir. Actually, it's client choir L. So if the client were using left and right choir distinctions in a particular for a particular client, it would say left choir. The GOA doesn't make a distinction, doesn't want a distinction. So even though it says, we talked about that. So in the GOA's actors file, choir L is just choir. Okay.
Brother Seraphim?
Yeah.
I was just curious, have you ever done any particular DCS for a smaller client, like a monastery that does use both of the two choir keys?
So I did for St. Nectarios when I was there for the parish.
Okay.
And then when early on here at St. Nicholas, I did the same thing, and it helped. It helped the choir. But that's when I was doing, the DCS on a flash drive where we were reading it, not online, but from our own. I was able at that time to easily create a DCS. That was what do we call that? Portable DCS that we would plug it into our computers at church. And so we weren't reliant. We could use it had the St. Nicholas hymn, it had, left and right or whatever it was, the options that we wanted.
Okay.
So I have, I don't do that now. And one of the reasons is because we don't have an easy way to export the DCS right now. But I think in Voxa, we'll be able to do that. And it's the links for the media and the PDF reader and stuff like that. That's what was becoming a little bit complicated. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So then we have here's the media links for that hymn. Here's the text of that hymn, Lord Protect for Many Years. Here's the priest. And then we did select dismissal com part 2. And that's what we did here. If it was Bright Week, if it's Paschal, that's where we are. Otherwise, do this. And cut. That's it. So that's the end of the liturgy. All right. It is so complex. All right, I'm going to look here. I'm in the selector for dismissals. And we're going to look at a feast day of the Mother of God. So here, these are the exceptions. So let's say it's Dormition. And so it would get caught here. The logic would stop here and we would go to dismissal O2, right? So right, it's for the Theotokos. Why won't it open? Please open. 475. Okay, so here we are. Is it movable cycle? Dormition is not in the movable cycle, so we go to the otherwise. If it's a Sunday, add, basically it's saying add, may he who rose from the dead, okay? But what I want to show you is the part for the Theotokos, which always is key number 2. That's the one that says, through the intercessions of his all pure and all immaculate Holy Mother. And then here's the RID for whose Dormition we are celebrating today. Okay, so let's go to here is August 15th. So here are those keys. Insert 1, insert 2. Insert 1 for the Mother of God is blank because she's always commemorated. Okay, so we don't need to say the Mother of God, but we do have insert 2 to be very specific when necessary, whose Dormition we celebrate. And that was added here, RID insert 2. Something similar will happen when we want, for St. John the Baptist. We get to his name and then we go RID insert 2, whose beheading or whose the finding of whose relics or whose birth or whatever, okay? Similarly for, I think, the cross, I think it'll say, the Holy Cross, the elevation of which we're celebrating, or something to that effect. There's another selector that is similar to this, and it's for the supplications. So the supplications, where it says, "Oh, God, save your people and bless your inheritance," and no, it's like at Matins, that long supplication. Okay, so that has more saints explicitly in it, right? The dismissal kind of is very generic, and this in the GOA, it's really kind of. I used to have more saints, but here it's pretty like small, pretty short. But there is, let's see, supplication. So here's the selector for the supplication text, where it starts with, "Oh God, save your people." This is it here, the key that says save your people, and then supplication through the prayers of his all immaculate Mother, power of the cross, etc. Now, let's say it was we have to be able to do some exceptions. Where are those? Where do I have those? Well, anyway. All right, now I want to, before we drill into a Vespers template, I want to look at what I call them MC maps. So here in the templates project, in the Movable Cycle, we have the Triodion templates, we have the Pentecostalion templates, which are basically the first half of the Movable Cycle, the second half of the Movable Cycle. And then there's an MC maps. What is that? I'm opening up the template for the Sunday of the Publican and the Pharisee. And I'm opening up Vespers. So here is the Vesper service for Sunday of the Publican of the Pharisee, which means it's going to have Oktoichos, it's going to have Triodion. And, there's an instance where it's in the post-feast of the meeting of the Lord that could possibly happen. So we would do it this way. So it's either in outside of the post-feast or in the post-feast. In any case, the publican, the Triodion day 1 doesn't have a date. Okay, so the service templates, even though this says service template Triodion, The dated services are the ones that make their way onto the index. So we don't give this one a date. We're not even going to generate this one. I don't even give it a final, it will not be generated. It will be invoked by the media map. So on a
You said the media map?
excuse me, the MC map, the
Right.
movable cycle map. Yeah, sorry about that. So let's go to February 15th. We're outside, it's after the meeting of the Lord. We're in the middle of January to middle of February. So here's the template for February 15th. And here's what we have for Vespers. It says when the movable cycle is any of those, meaning the first Sunday, the second Sunday, 14 is the Saturday of Souls, the third Sunday of Triodion, and then that week of Cheese, Cheese Monday, Cheese Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the days that could possibly be February 15th. Okay. And I have limited to only the ones that it could be. But basically it's saying if it's one of those days where the Triodion takes over and the Triodion tells you what to do, then go to the MC map for Vespers. Otherwise, if it's a Sunday or if it's a weekday, do this. All right, so let's just say that it is one of those days. So we go to the MC map for Vespers. And now it says, when it's, which of the Triodion ones should we, do? And that's where the liturgical properties, figures out which day of the Triodion is it? And is it one of the ones? It's either going to be 1, 8, 14, 15, 16. None of the other ones. We've only allowed it to be the ones where the Triodion takes over, and so then it'll take us to the one that we want, this one, and that's where we get Publican and the Pharisee Vespers on the particular date. So that happens through what I call the movable cycle map. So that when, all right, do you understand? Yes? Okay. So there is a movable cycle map for each of the kinds of services. We have for Vespers, we have it for midnight office, for full matins, matins customizable, all of them. And so in those dates that fall within the Triodion or the Pentecostalion, this is where it gets mapped out to them. So it's kind of going back. It starts with the Mineon, it goes to the movable cycle, and then the movable cycle might actually refer back to the Mineon. And that happens during Lent. This was an easy one. This was the first Sunday of Lent. It just takes over everything. There's nothing in the Mineon, is done. But let's find a date that always is, in the middle of Lent somewhere. So that would be, let's say, in March 1st. Okay. So March 1st. All right. So March 1st, let's say that it's day 32, which is somewhere in the middle of Lent, okay? So we came to March 1st, we ran the template for Vespers. It's day 32, so it gets stuck here. We go here to the map. Here's day 32. Okay. So we go, it's going to take us now to the Triodion service template. Okay, we go there. So this is very specific to that day. So here it tells us, which Psalter to do. And then it says, go back to, for example, you do from the Triodion 3, and then it sends you back to the Mineon, go get from the Minaon the 3 for the saint, etc., etc. That's how that works. Let's look at, however, February 1st, Matins. So it was 32. Let's say, okay, here's the map for Matins. Here we are, day 32. Takes us to the service template for the day 32 of Introdion Matins. And here we have. So as far as the Triodion goes, once we hit the Triodion, it rules, okay? And the Triodion tells you what parts of the Minaon and stuff. All we have to do is hit the Triodion template, and we're okay. Not necessarily so in the Pentecostalion. Pentecostalion functions a little bit differently. The Pentecostalion supplies some hymns to, whereas the Triodion has everything, the Pentecostalion kind of supplies hymns to the date. So let's look at, again, it's the media map. And so now we're going to go into one of the weekdays of the Pentecostalion. So here, for example, it says this is now the week of the myrrh bearers, right? So Sunday of the myrrh bearers is 85. 86 through 90 is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Through Friday of the myrrh bearers week. And it says it follows the same pattern as Monday. Monday through Friday follows the same pattern as Monday. So that's why it says if it's any one of those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, any one of those 5, go to this template. So now we're going to the Pentecostalion template for 86. And here's what it says to do. All right. It's kind of complex, but it's all here. Now, in this, we have another thing here. Some of the days will say, go to the media map for Matins, but block 1. What is that? All right, let's go to a date that has that. Okay. So here it's May 9th. May 9th, and let's say that it's one of those days, Monday through Friday, okay? In this case, it's telling us, give us the sources, do God is the Lord, mode 2. Here's the apolitikia, they're kind of complex there for, Sunday of the myrrh bearers, there's a 3 plus the 1 from the Minaon or whatever. And now it says go to Movable Cycle Map Matins, Instance 1, Block 1. And then come back here and do the end of Matins. Okay, so because of the complexity of this particular week, we had to write out, this detail, but this part of the service, we could skip beginning And I've named block 1, and we can do all of that. Now, why is that? That's because if we were just to say, go to 86, like the first time, that is when there's no saint with no apolitikion for that saint. And so it was just the 3 apolitikia, of the myrrh bearers, right? You understand, mode 2, it's the when you descended. In the case of May 9th, we do have a couple of saints, actually. We have Saint Isaiah and we have Saint Christopher, and they're all in there. So we had to fit in. We couldn't just use the default apolitikion section from Post Feast of the Myrrh Bearers. We had to actually spell it out with all the apolitikia. But then the rest of it was the same. So that's why I was able to point to block 1 of the rest of the template, of that date, that day, which is all of this. Imagine if we reprinted this, reprogrammed this on every single template where that happens in the Pentecostalian. And then suppose someone came around and said, actually, we're going to do it this way. Well, you'd have to go through and find it everywhere and change it. Where here, it's just all here, the same thing, all 5 days, called block 1, and then we go back to the specifics here, and we're able to do the apolitikia like we did. And so here, I was a little bit efficient. I called this section here within the template the apolitikia. See that? And because those are repeated at the end of the service of matins, I didn't repeat them. I just invoked that section, which is right there. That's how to read this template. Now, I think in books it's just all going to be, spelled out. But that was my thinking, since this is used exactly again, just call it, insert the section. All right. That's any questions about the movable cycle map and the idea of using blocks that kind of go back and forth? It was to save on, so we wouldn't have to repeat programming over and over again.